what do you think of the connection between Gladiator and the kind of realism that you see in Man of Steel and that in Zack Snyder's work of Superman?
Yeah, I mean,
Because look,
I know.
Man of Steel had these themes of eugenics running all through it. Krypton was a planet that embraced eugenics, created society based on biological roles that were predetermined. Superman is the first natural birth in
Let's say, didn't that
Krypton. I
start with
mean,
John? Wasn't that a John Byrne thing? Wasn't that part of the John Byrne reboot in the late '80s?
it might have been, but I haven't read it since the late '80s, so I'm not
Right. Yeah,
really
me
sure.
neither. But that rings a bell.
I mean, it very well could be.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is a stink in the fan community. People get mad that Superman and Batman are killing people. How do you do these? And that's something like I've thought about this some. How do you do these characters in live action? I mean, how do you depict these gigantic city fights without the mayhem? So doing something even in animation is very different. But when you're doing it with like actual people,
Well, let me ask you this question.
you're gonna have to depict the costs of these massive superpowered violent acts.
Why people talk about this idea in terms of marvelization of the films, where even though you know in the back of your mind that giant space creatures roving Manhattan are killing people, you don't ever want to depict it because you don't want to show that there's a price for all of this. What is that? I mean, even Grimm's fairy tales. We were, you know, old women were eating children, right? I mean, they're
right, and there were superheroes that killed people
but
back before Captain America carried a goddamn Tommy gun.
But what is this idea? This kind of purity of comics where you can't show that. Well, I don't understand that. It never seemed to exist when I was reading comic books.
I don't know that it's that. I suspect it is the influence of probably by the time between the time it was adopted and the time it was dispensed with, you're looking at 30 odd years of the Comics Code Authority. Because Superman,
right? But even then, you had comics like The Watchmen, and others that were depicting quite violent and grotesque acts.
Oh yeah, Howard Chaykin's Shadow miniseries.
So what I mean, I don't think it's born out of that because this is a modern trend where you have these people who hold these characters in such exaltedness that they cannot be impure. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I just think after a certain point, that's sort of where I was going. Is you've got to look at the comics and live action stuff as two separate universes. They're not the same continuities. They're not precisely the same characters, and there's precedent for all this stuff if you go back far enough. Early Batman killed people. Early Batman shot people. We did not have this we didn't have Batman's "I won't touch a gun" thing in 1939, because in 1939 Batman touched a lot of guns, and Batman either killed directly or killed through inaction. So Superman, as far as I know, never did either. But like we talked about, was a fairly violent character on his own terms. Again, early on. So
and if you were there's in Gladiator, Hugo is treated with a degree of realism that if you're dealing with superhuman characters, the kinds of things that Hugo Danner experiences would happen in real life because physics is real.
yeah,
And the idea that you would ignore that and that you would make, listen, if Spider-Man caught Mary Jane falling from a bridge, as he does in the films, Mary Jane would be bisected.
You screwed up. Oh wait, you're talking in the movies?
Yeah.
I was thinking about the comic thing. I was trying to save you from the comments.
No,
In the
no.
comics, in the comic, it was Gwen Stacy.
Well, whoever, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Superman cannot catch Lois Lane falling without killing her. It's
well, actually, I'm just being a dick.
You understand what I'm saying, right?
I do.
So Wylie creates a world where this character is treated with a physics that's real. And this was in 1930. We have people running around today talking about The Boys and Invincible as being some sort of revelation. These are the way things happen. It's very well. This 100 years ago, someone was also writing about these things. The point being is, everything is. There's an unbroken chain in human inspiration where we take inspiration from the things that came in the past. Nothing is really original because it really all has been told before. Okay. And the only thing unique is the author behind it and what unique thing they want to say about that.
The ideas carry through. Execution always has differences.
Right. But this notion that superheroes, on one hand, have to be these pure beings who wouldn't hurt a fly, and then exalting some show like The Boys or Invincible, where superheroes are constantly maiming people. There's this weird dichotomy, this weird schism in the fandom. I don't quite understand it. But that brings us to something else.
Different varieties of power fantasy would be my guess.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this in the future because
there's keep coming up.
Yeah, The Boys and Invincible, they're not unique. They have inspiration not only from Hugo Danner and the Gladiator, but from the Watchmen and from something called the Brat Pack, which we'll talk about. Any closing thoughts on this thing?
I was trying to think of anything we haven't touched. No, I think we pretty well covered it.
Like, subscribe, repost, share everywhere. To see what else we're up to, visit xynobooks.com, xenobooks.com.